All right, welcome back, everybody, to the 14th week of the Tech Bytes Python session. If you are joining us from our Intro to Programming course, welcome back to the 6th week of our Intro to Programming course, in which we're having a lot of fun learning some new topics like we did the last time we were here about recursion. And today, moving on to a new topic and a project to have some fun as well. As always, I am glad that you guys are here joining us. Spread the word. Hopefully you guys are ready to have some fun. And without any further ado, well, let's get to it. In case you don't already know who I am, guys, my name is Rayan Siddiqui. I am a senior at James B. Conan High School. I love to program. I've made various apps for the App Store, made a dozen different websites, and I'm now really looking towards the content creation side, making some of my own YouTube videos about tech, writing some articles, which you can all find on my website at rayansiddiqui.com. All right, so let's get down to today's agenda. What shall we be doing today? Well, firstly, we're going to get started off with our daily fun fact relating the programming language which we are studying to a cool fact in our world. And I will give you a hint. Today's fun fact is pretty cool. Secondly, we'll be talking about our new project and what that will entail. It'll be fun, don't worry. And then we're going to learn a new concept in order to make sure that we hit the ground running when we start our new project. And then with the time remaining, we're going to code some examples of our new concept. And if time, we can get started working on our new project as well. However, before we get to that, we have to talk about our daily fun fact. That being that this week's cool Python fun fact of the day is that you can use the programming language of Python to place an order for a pizza from a pizza shop like Domino's. What? Wait, so let's dissect this word by word. Essentially, I'm saying that we can use the language which we are studying and programming in, called Python, in order to place a pizza order from Domino's. So I can code something which will place an order, like I don't have to go through the website? Well, that's true. And how can we do that? Well, we talked about previously in this course about something called an API. Remember, an API stands for an application programming interface. And basically, the main thing which we have to remember is that APIs make our lives easier. They have pre-written functions, libraries, and a lot of code which can do things which we want our code to do. And although it might sound random and a bit crazy at the same time, there's actually a library and an API which already exist in order to place an order at a Domino's. So how do you even do that? Well, usually we have to request and send a request to our API that, hey, we want to place an order for a pizza. And in order to do that, we have to pass certain parameters. So remember from our past days in this course, we learned about that parameters are basically values which we can pass into a function in order to simplify our code and make our program more nicer. Well, in that same sense, when we use this API, we have to pass parameters in order to place the order. Now, what are those parameters? Well, we need to place, what do we want? Do we want a pepperoni pizza? Do we want a cheese pizza? Do we want a jalapeno and onion topping pizza? There's so many wide variety and combinations of the pizzas which we can eat. So firstly, we got to specify what type of pizza and what size, small, medium, large, how big do we want it? Then we have to give our address, such as whatever your address is if you're doing delivery, or you could do a carryout as well. Then the third parameter we pass in is the store location. So do you want to go to the store nearest to you, maybe down the street, maybe from further away, whatever the case might be. And then lastly, you got to put in your credit card information so that you can actually place the order. Because even though it's cool that we're going to use the language of Python to place an order, you still have to pay money for the pizza. And once we have passed those pieces of information in, essentially the pizza store like Domino's, they get notified. But how do they get notified? Well, basically, when we send that request through our API uses, the way it is built up is that it communicates to the server of Domino's and tells them, hey, we have received an order. Now, does Domino's know that I placed the order using coding? No. They just, on their system, on their front end, all they can see is that, hey, this person named, like, say I placed the order, Rayon, he placed an order for a large jalapeno and onion pizza. Well, they don't know that I placed it with Python, but it's still cool to know that at the end of the day, we can do something like this to this magnitude and place an order for Domino's. Now, do I recommend that you guys try this out? Look it online, look a tutorial online, and don't use your parents' permission? No, no, no. But if you ever feel like, hey, want to show off your programming skills or want to maybe try to do something cool, this is definitely one of those things. And if you have any concerns that this could not be safe, I'm putting my credit card information in. Rest assured that way the API is built, it is pretty secure because all the information which you pass in, such as your address, your credit card info, your phone number, all of that is encrypted, meaning that there's a very low probability of somebody stealing that information. But just like any other week, this week goes to show how the language we are studying of Python can really do a whole bunch of stuff, which even goes to daily stuff like placing an order for pizza. All right, so now let's move on over to our project, our new project, which we shall be talking about today, getting some basic ideas down today, that being a game of tic-tac-toe. Now, in case you've not played tic-tac-toe, we'll play and do a couple rounds, but here's the basic idea. We're going to be making a two-player tic-tac-toe game with a standard 3x3 board. So if you take a look at the picture down below, that's a standard 3x3 board. We're going to have a two-player game, so you and a friend possibly. You have to put an X, other person puts an O, whatever symbol you want to do. And then basically, we're going to be checking for who wins, who can get 3 down, 3 across, 3 in a diagonal. And then making this project, we'll be utilizing some core concepts, such as variables, functions, loops, parameters, inputs, and a new concept today, which we shall be learning about, that being dictionaries. So before we get into our new concept of today, here is our plan for the day with our new project of tic-tac-toe. We're firstly going to go to a website just to make sure we know the basics of the game. We're going to get our new concept of dictionaries down, and then we're going to get our board coded and discuss some possible scenarios which can occur in our game. So firstly, we have to go check out the actual game. So if you guys look at my screen, in case you've not played tic-tac-toe, very simple game. There's basically 3 squares like such, and 3 rows and 3 columns. So 9 possible spaces in total. And you can put an X or a circle, X, circle. And if I get 3 in a diagonal, we see I get a win because 3 in a diagonal wins. So essentially, you just want to get 3 in any direction and you can win. So if I go, we'll go straight, we see that I win. So nothing too crazy, although it doesn't seem like, hey, this is a pretty simple game. The code is a bit sophisticated, and it is the reason why we're doing this project now as compared to, say, a month ago is because we had to learn some concepts about more about for loops, more about parameters, and now we are at that level where we can actually make some cooler stuff like this tic-tac-toe game. And actually, let me even show you the final project which I have, which we will eventually be coding in the coming weeks. But if I share my screen again, we take a look. This is what we're going to try to code. We're going to have a 3x3 board. We can place our X marker, place our circle marker, and essentially, we just want to win the game. So I'll play a quick round right here. And you can see that I won because I got 3 and a diagonal. So over the coming weeks, in the next about 2 to 4 weeks I've envisioned for this project, our goal will be to create this fully loaded game. But we have to start somewhere, so we're going to start off today by just going over the basics and learning a new concept as well. And speaking of that new concept, what is the new concept? Well, it's funny you asked, because that new concept is called dictionaries. Now, dictionaries. Well, am I referring to a dictionary which we use which gives us a definition about a word? Well, sort of. If you made that connection, you're partially right. It's surprising that in the language of Python, there is a thing called dictionary, which I want you to think about is similar to an array. And basically, a dictionary is, like an array, it holds data and multiple pieces of data about certain object. So if I head on over to the next slide, we see that I want you guys to think that dictionaries are still that key idea. They're like an array, but they can hold more pieces of data about one certain thing. And if I go back, we can see that they help us keep track of values with keys and values. So if you take a look at this highlighted portion I have right here, this first key, this number 1 represents a key. And then this item right here, like the word apple, which is a string, remember, because it is in quotation marks, that is the value. Then we have a second key. You could name your key whatever you would like. We'll go over that in an example we do soon. And then our value is 1 plus, like a word. It's like that 1 plus is a phone company, but it could be whatever variable you're keeping track of. And essentially, this idea is that keys and values are always corresponding, meaning there is always going to be a corresponding value to a key. And basically, this helps us in keeping track of certain pieces of data, and specifically why we shall be using this concept of dictionaries is when we are keeping track of our board. And more specifically, we will be checking with our dictionary, checking if any of the combinations to have a win occur, such as 3 diagonal, 3 down, 3 across. If any of those occur, then we know that a user will win. But we have to first code these dictionaries and just get used to what this whole concept is about. So how about we open up our online environment? As always, it'll be dropped in the chat for you to open as well. And I'm going to open up the website as well. In case you were not there, the website should be in the chat now. And once you head on over, just hit start coding, hit the Python language because that is the language which we are coding in, hit create REPL, and there we go. Give everybody a quick couple minutes to get on the website. Let me know if you're having any issues. All right, so once we are inside of our website where we program, how about we first get started by doing some exercises with this idea of dictionaries. So I'm going to rename my, oh, not logged in. All right, that's fine. All right, so let's comment down there below then. Now, first, we're going to start off by talking about this concept of dictionaries. So remember the key idea, which I talked about, is that we still have an array, which meaning that dictionaries, they're going to be still holding values, aka variables or like data. And then the main thing which we have to remember is that, every key has a corresponding value. So like say I have a dictionary, we have a key, say we'll call it, we'll call the key first. It always has a value corresponding. So it could be an integer, it could be a string, whatever the case might be, like such. So in this case, our number, the word first is our key, and then the word hello is our value. Let's put it in actual code perspective. So in order to create our first dictionary, what we're going to do is just hold it in a variable. So I'm going to create a variable called first dictionary space equal sign. And then we're going to need the curly brackets, which we use, remember, in JavaScript to make our functions. And then once we have our squiggly curly brackets, I'm going to hit enter just for formatting sakes. And now we can actually start coding our dictionary. So with our first key, how about we do an example about we can do a store example. So we'll do, I'll call it, my first key will be store name. And then once we have our first key, we usually need a colon in order to designate that, hey, whatever comes after the colon corresponds to that key, just to make sure that our values and keys are kept together. Once we have that, Now we can add more data about our store name. So our store name is, how about we do the store of Walmart? So this is the first entry in our array, in our dictionary in this case, which is going to hold the name of our store. Remember, in this case, Walmart is the value, store name is the key. And now we can also add some other pieces of information, some other keys. So we can say store size, remember colon, space, and then I'll put your store size, say, actually I'm going to rename this to store capacity. And then we'll say it can hold with, how about the new restrictions, we'll do 200 people at a time. Add a couple more values, we'll do number of items, colon, space, and how about we say a typical store of Walmart has probably thousands, right? So we'll say, how about 1,600 items. And then lastly, I'll do one last key about number of employees. And then we'll say they have about 50 employees working in one shift. And voila, there we go. We've coded our first ever dictionary with some values corresponding to keys about a store. Get everybody quick ready to catch up there? All right, so now with this dictionary done, what happens if I print this dictionary? Well, remember, this is a dictionary and it's different than just a variable like x holding the value of hello. So if I were to print out the variable x, I would be, in the output box, I would see the word hello being printed out because that's the value the variable x holds. However, if I print a whole dictionary inside of a variable, what's going to be printed out? Let's see. If I run, we see that all the fields which we typed in, they're being printed out. So we're seeing the key, store name, the value, Walmart, the key, store capacity, with the corresponding value of 200. So how can I get a specific key? Like, say I want to know the store capacity, but I don't want to be printed out with all that other information. Like, I don't really need that information. Well, what we can do is, remember that idea of how we used to access elements in an array? So say I had an array like, I'll call it array practice, and we had an array with values like hello, bye, and hi. In order to access the specific area, we had to do, so say I'll print it out, comment this out real quick. We had to do access the first index of our array, like such. So although this is the second word, remember the index system works. If I draw on the screen, hello is the 0th index, bye is the first index, and hi is the second index. So now if I hit run, we see that the word bye is printed out because that is located at the first index, which I've specified right here in between these brackets. Now we can use this similar idea in order to access a specific element in our dictionary. So if I get the drawing tool again, this store name, Walmart, this first key, which I am squaring like such, this is the 0th index. The store capacity with the value 200, that is the first index. The number of items is the second index. And then the number of employees is the third index. And more specifically, if we want to say access, there's a quicker way with dictionaries which makes them really usable. If you want to say just get the number of items really quickly, well, all we have to do is do the name of our first dictionary variable, bracket, and then quotation marks, and just say number items. And now this line of code should print us out the number 1,600. Let's see if it does. And there we go, it indeed does. And similarly, if I were to do print me out the second index, we see that oh, there we go. Okay, so if I print out number of items, we see that the number 1,600 is being printed out because dictionaries are useful in that manner. So although if I were to try this out in a regular array, say I go right here, uncomment this, I will tell my array I want to know where the word by. Well, that's going to give me an error because in an array, they're not two-dimensional. This is a one-dimensional array, meaning there's only one key. However, in the dictionary, we have a key corresponding to a value. So whenever I say I want to know what the value is of the number items key, it's going to spit me back a value which it corresponds to. Now there are some cool functions which come with dictionaries. So say I want to hold number employees. I want to extract from this variable, this dictionary, how many employees there are. Well, what I can do is do first dictionary dot, and then I'm going to do get, opening close parentheses, and then quotation marks, and then the key number employees. And now if I print the number of employees out, if I do print, I'll say there are full number employees in the store. If I print this out, we should see the statement, there are 50 employees in the store. And if I run, we do see the statement of there are 50 employees in the store being printed out. Now, with this basic idea down of being able to differentiate the difference between an array and a dictionary and how dictionaries can sometimes be more useful, we have to relate this to our actual tic-tac-toe project and how it will come in handy. And specifically in our project, the way we will use it is that we will be using a dictionary as the way to make a board. Now, before we actually get to coding the board, we're going to be using this dictionary in conjunction with for loops. So let's get to that part first. Hopefully everybody is doing good. If you have any questions, as always, be sure to drop them in the chat. This fiddle will be linked in the Google Classroom as always. So how about we try it out with a loop now? So remember in Python, we just do for x, I'm going to do in range. Now we have two options which we can do here. We can do the length of our dictionary, or simply what we can do is do for x in my dictionary. So this way, we are looping over each item in our dictionary. And then if I print out the variable x, we should see all this data being printed out, which we do. But something interesting happened. When we printed out our first dictionary, each item which is being iterated over, meaning looped over, we see that the keys are being printed out and not the values. Why is that? Well, it's because we have to access the actual value with the key. So if I do this, first dictionary, and then the key value, we see that if I hit run, oh, why is this not compiling? Give me 1 second, let me refresh my screen. And we see that all of the data is being printed out about our dictionary. However, if you want to get one specific piece of information, all you have to do is do brackets and then the index of, and then we see all of the values are being printed out because we specified a specific key value. So in order to visualize this in a better manner, if you'd like, what we can do is print out the key and the corresponding value. So what I'm going to do is say key. And what I'll do, actually make a variable called counter. And you don't have to do this part. If you want to follow along, that's totally fine. So I'm going to show you guys how each key value is related to the value, to its respective value. So I'm going to do key and then counter is, we're going to print out our key value, and then I'm going to do print value, and then counter, this specifying where we're at in our dictionary is, and then print out our value, like such. With that down, if I hit run, we should see all of, oh, this has to be plus equals 1, because it's Python. And if I run now, valid syntax. Oh, I forgot a comma. There we go. Now, if I run, we should see the statements being printed out. Like first, key number 1 is store name. Value number 1 is Walmart. And if I hit run, shortly enough, we do. We see key 1 is store name. Value 1 is Walmart. Key 2 is store capacity, which it is. And key 2 value 2 is 200. And key 4 is number of employees. And the value of number 4 is 50 as well. So this idea of using a dictionary along with, in conjunction with, within a for loop is going to be very useful when we start making our board and keeping track of where the user has made their move in our tic-tac-toe project. And speaking of our tic-tac-toe project, how about we open up a new fiddle so that we can, for today, we can start actually making the board. So in case you did not, were not able to keep up or maybe had an error, this fiddle, the code which we wrote today in this first part of the dictionary concept script will be available in the Google Classroom, so no worries if you did not keep up. But right now, what I'm going to do is open up a new fiddle, like as a project area, where we shall be doing our coding and making our board today. So there we go. Give everybody a quick minute. In case you've not saved this fiddle, if you're working on, no worries. Like I said before, you can always access it in our classroom. Give everybody a quick minute to catch up and get on the website, and we get started. And while everybody is getting on the website, what I'm going to do is quickly log into my account to make sure that we can save all the progress. All right, now I'm logged in. I got all my data saved as well. And hopefully everybody is on the board as well. And now we can get started with actually coding our tic-tac-toe project. So today we're going to be using that idea of dictionary and installing it in our tic-tac-toe project to make the board. So we're going to use that idea of a dictionary in order to make our board. Now, before we get to that part, what I'd like to do is show visually how we will be doing that. So if I head on over back to that tic-tac-toe game, right here, and I'm going to be writing on top of it to show that the way we're going to use this dictionary is that in order to get and access each of these squares, we're going to have to assign a certain number, because we can't tell the computer that, hey, we want an X top right. We can't, although we can't physically say it in words, we can for sure code it. And how we're going to do that is that we're going to say that this is going to be the first position. This will be the second position. This shall be the third position. This will be the fourth position. The middle will be the fifth position. This position will be the sixth, and so on. This is the seventh. This is the eighth. And this is the ninth position. And this is something which we shall use in our actual creation of our board dictionary. we're going to correspond each of these places to a value. So if, say, the user, a sneak peek of the coming weeks, say the user wants to place an X in the middle, well, we're going to tell the computer, hey, populate the 5th position with an X. Say the circle person wants to go in the top left. We're going to say, hey, place a circle marker in the 7th position like such. So with this understanding, visual understanding down, let's start making our actual dictionary. So I'm gonna call our, since it's gonna hold our board, I'm gonna say, call it board dictionary equal. Remember, we need the open and close squiggly brackets, plus press enter so that we can have some nice indentations. And now we just have to essentially write out each position. So I'm gonna do 1, the first position. Right now, since there's nobody inside that position, that's gonna set it equal to some empty quotation marks like such. And continue that same pattern. So number 2 position, same thing. Corresponding value from the key is gonna be blank because there's nobody there. And then just continue this pattern. So the number 3, like such. Number 4 is still empty because remember, we're initializing our board to be 3 by 3 with no spaces filled. Number 5, number 6, and I'm just copying and pasting, guys, to make our lives a bit easier. Number 7, number 8, and number 9. Now, in order to make this seem like the way which I was showing you guys, what I'm going to do is simply move some of our lines like such that it looks like an actual board. Like such. So now, if you sort of relate this back to our website, we see that we have 9 positions empty. And since like this, there are 9 positions empty. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, so with our board dictionary, which will hold where a user makes a move, done. How about we make a function to cap off today, and which will actually print out the nice 3 by 3 grid. In order to do that, what we're going to do is do a function. So I'm going to say def print the board. And then this function is going to accept a parameter, that being our board dictionary. So I'm just going to say that the value which is going to be passed in is going to be called board, colon, enter sign. There we go. And now, essentially, what we have to do is start printing out each value which corresponds to the key. So what I'm going to do is do make sure your indentations are correct, everybody. Print. I'm going to reference my board dictionary. And now I'm going to do the first whole row first. So I'm going to say I want the value of the 7th, which is the key 7. So what the computer is going to do is, okay, the key 7 corresponds to a blank string. So it's going to print out a blank space. Once we got that, we can do a plus and then quotation marks and then do shift backslash in order to get that nice divider between our spaces like such. And then I'm going to continue the same pattern. I'm going to print out the 8th key value like such. I'm going to make that go back a bit. Add that nice divider in the middle again, and then cap it off with the 9th position. And now if I actually hit run on the program, we shall see that our first row is ready. Oh, I'm not printing it. So if I go back down and I use our function print board, pass in the parameter of our board dictionary like such, if I run, we see the first initial row is starting to take shape, but we still have some work to do. Now we have to print a sort of divider between our rows. So what I'm going to do is just print out these 5 dashes. And if I hit run now, we see that we can sort of see how the division is occurring between the board. And if you guessed it, all we need to do now is continue the same pattern. So I'm going to copy this first 2 lines of code, paste them, replace the keys with the lower level keys. So this is going to be 4, 5th, and the 6th key. And if I hit print again, we see more of the board is taking shape. And lastly, if I copy paste that line one last time, add that final row of values 1, 2, and 3, we should see our full board done. And voila, we can see that we got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We do not need this. There we go, 1. So if I zoom in, get the drawing tool. This is our first position, second position, third position, fourth position, fifth position, sixth position, seventh position, eighth position, and the 9th position. And we were successfully able to do this with the help of our dictionary. So that is the code which we are going to type and start building the foundation for this tic-tac-toe project. Today, the basic idea was just to learn about this new concept, advanced concept of dictionaries, and put it into use simply by making the board of our game. And we could see how we made that today with grabbing the corresponding value, which corresponds to the key, and printing it out. And obviously at the beginning of the game, we're going to have a blank board because nobody's made a move. And as always, guys, this video will also be available in our Google Classroom. So no worries if you made a mistake, have any questions, you can always reach out to me on the Classroom. However, that is pretty much it for today. I hope you guys had a fun time. For next week, we will be continuing our tic-tac-toe project, going down into more how the user can communicate with the board. How can one player make a move and the other player make a move as well? Getting down to the more nitty-gritty. Hopefully you guys had a fun time today, learned something new, had a fun time with the fun fact about the pizza ordering. As always, guys, take care, and I'll catch you guys next week. See you guys.